Arune neva bodhena purvam santamase hrite tata avirbhavedatma swayamevam shumaniva. Arune neva bodhena purvam santamase hrite tata avirbhavedatma swayamevam shumaniva. Just as the sun rises soon after the dense darkness is dispelled by dawn, so too Atman reveals itself after the ignorance is destroyed by knowledge. What a beautiful verse. Just as the sun rises, Arune neva. Arunaha refers to the dawn. Arune neva. Yes, ma'am. So Arunaha is said to be the charioteer of sun god. I don't know how many of you are aware of it. Arunaha is a charioteer of sun god, and the charioteer comes way before the sun god appears. And what is the job of the Arunaha? Annapurnama? What is the job of the sun god? No, the sun god, Arunaha.
Pranam Guruji. To dispel darkness and bring light.
No, light is the sun god. Light is the sun god. Now, so the dawn, like in the summer months as we are, by 5:30, you would see it's already bright, enough brightness. There's no more darkness by 5:30. But the sun would rise perhaps at 6:10, 6:15. So half an hour, 45 minutes before you can actually see the sun in the horizon, Arunaha has actually dispelled the dense darkness of the night. It's all gone. Now, what is the Arunaha compared to here? You're right, Annapurnama. So what is the
process of...
Yes, go ahead.
Process of getting enlightened.
All right.
Throwing more light, getting more knowledge.
Okay. All right. See, you must draw the complete analogy. So the ignorance is the darkness. The darkness is dispelled by Arunaha. The three things we are talking here: the darkness, Arunaha, and the sun god. Isn't it, Vasantama? The three things. So there is the... Sorry, my memory is very short. Repeat, Panango.
Darkness, Aruna, sun god.
Ma, don't log in with him. You sit separately. I ask you, he answers, what is this going on? So the three things are...
Knowledge.
The three things are, we are trying to draw an analogy to it. First is ignorance, which is darkness is one. Then Arunaha, and then the sun god. Now, what are the three things compared to the ignorance is compared to darkness, isn't it? Arunaha is compared to
ignorance.
No.
Darkness.
Dawn. See, the darkness is the
knowledge.
Night.
Knowledge is sun god.
Knowledge is Aruna. Sun God is wisdom.
Chapter close. நம்மளுக்குள்ள ரெடிமேட் ஆன்சர்ஸ் இருக்கு இல்லையா, அது யாருக்கு இருக்காது. Oh my God, it just, we keep churning out answers from nowhere. The answers come out.
Right or wrong?
That I do not know. You have given answer. Sir, so if you say knowledge, just Gayatri Ma was saying, mere knowledge is of no use. It is the wisdom that helps, isn't it? But if you take that into the comparison, the Aruna actually dispels the dense darkness. In the analogy, if you compare it to the concept, the knowledge doesn't dispel the ignorance. Ignorance very much lurks. It's like 4 o'clock, you get up in the morning, it's still dark, pretty dark. If you don't see the clock, you wouldn't know it's 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock. It's still darkness. But it's not at the 5:30, 5:15, 5:20. You're already seeing the darkness disappearing slowly. At 5:30, there's no more darkness. You can actually take a newspaper out into the street and you can actually read newspaper. There's enough light. But sunlight at 6:15 is self-realization. Seeing the sunlight is self-realization. Arunaha is, what is Arunaha? Vaidyanathanji, what is Arunaha?
Oh. Effort.
So we are actually losing you. There seems to be some network issue.
For
No, we don't hear you clearly. There's some network issues, sir. Could you repeat what you said?
I said it is the sadhana, the effort that we put in achieving self-realization.
But that has to remove the ignorance. That has to remove the dense darkness. So the effort doesn't remove the darkness. The fruits of your efforts removes the darkness, isn't it? So
Yes.
what is the tangible fruit you can compare to Arunaha?
I would say wisdom.
Correct. The wisdom at relative level is Arunaha, not the mere theoretical information. The theoretical information is not Arunaha. The wisdom you gather. And how do you gather the wisdom, Tingima?
Hari Om Guruji. Translating knowledge into action through manan and shravana, manana, prashnena, nididhyasana in Brahma Muhurtam. Very important.
Yes. The contemplation, manana, reflection, which is referred to the previous verse, which is the churning, isn't it? Which is the early morning we do it. So the churning is referred to the contemplation, the manana, which the fruit of that effort is wisdom. And what is a sign of that wisdom? It should burn off the ignorance. Now the question is, I said we will look into how do you measure ignorance? What is the tool? Not say a tool. How would you understand spiritual ignorance? Because he says that ignorance has to go, like the darkness is dispelled by Aruna. What is the expression of ignorance in one's lives? Ramji, any idea as to what this wisdom has to displace?
Well, I can only guess, Guruji. I suppose it is engagement with the external world or the extroverted pursuits.
Could you come again, sir? We just lost you initially.
No, I was saying that the ignorance is represented by extroverted pursuits or external engagements that we have.
Sir, there's nothing wrong in someone being extroverted. No? What is wrong with that? A person will argue, I may not be designed to sit and study the scriptures. I am a man of action. I want to go out into the world and act. What's wrong with that? The scriptures have nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with that.
But then
But
how do you draw that comparison of extrovertedness to ignorance? So, but
sorry.
There is something more to it when you convey or when you use the word extroverted. That word conveys far more. Can you clarify that part?
Extrovertedness for selfish reasons. Let us say that you are engaging with the external world for selfish reasons. That is the one which represents ignorance.
So
compared to you engage, do your action, do your duties, but with the higher purpose, with an effort to go deeper inside yourself through those actions.
Sir, you know, I'm thinking from a perspective of a man of action, sir. I'm not talking from a man of contemplation. A man of action. Let's say we are looking at the whole philosophy from a management perspective. When a person acts, when actions are of, as you use the word, selfish nature, when he brings in impurities, egoistic nature, selfishness to his work, what does that action create?
It will create agitation, or it will create conflict.
It creates an agitation within, and it creates a friction and conflict with the world out there, isn't
Correct.
it?
Yes. Yes.
So there is no harmony within, neither is a harmony without.
Correct.
It's like I've taken a broom and I've gone into a go down, which has been neglected, and I start sweeping up. I disturb the dust. What happens? The dust was there, but it's all settled down. But I go and dust up the whole place. And when I put on light, I've disturbed everything. So much so I can't breathe. There's only dust everywhere, isn't it? So my action of disturbing that, the settled dust, is because of my own egoistic, selfish actions. I go and rupture the environment, creates a friction. So there's agitation within, there's agitation without.
Correct.
Now, if you bring little wisdom into that man, as I said, act like a man of thought and think like a man of action. If you act sensibly, if you act reasonably, if you act with a little intellect, a buddhi, with wisdom, what would it do to the agitations within and without?
It will replace it with harmony and peace.
There is peace and satisfaction within and harmony
outside. Yeah.
And cooperative endeavor outside, isn't it?
Correct.
So can that, even at the most basic level, we're not talking of sunrise here. The most basic level, when I integrate this wisdom into my life, the benefits are there for me to be seen. So all the hiccups and all the aspects which are disturbing me in my life instantly becomes peace and harmonious for me. Why? Because I have learned that ability to relate with the world. I have that wisdom, isn't it?
Yes.
So I am only trying to bring that arunaha at a level where we start going about creating or tasting that benefits of wisdom, even at the grossest level. Start with it. So the ignorance manifests in the form of mental agitations. The two expressions are avarana and vikshepa. Hariji, what is avarana and vikshepa?
Avarana is the coverage.
Which is the
Ignorance.
Ignorance.
Yeah.
And vikshepa
is the agitation.
The
Which is
agitation. The restlessness.
The ripples and the restlessness.
The restlessness or the ripples of the mind is vikshepa. The Sanskrit word for mental agitation is vikshepa. Vikshepa arises out of avarana. So the first expression of avarana is vikshepa, mental agitations.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
So, Hariji, just going along with you, moving further, moving beyond the initial hiccups of life, the pinpricks of life. Everybody has pinpricks of life. And these pinpricks are bothering us. These mental pinpricks, isn't it? And these mental pinpricks express because of what? What is the cause of these hiccups or pinpricks of life? Again, I'm saying the next level of ignorance. The first level of ignorance we said is your selfishness, perhaps causing your mental agitations. Okay.
The otherness.
No, you're going too high.
Yeah, we are not able to see a sort of, at a relative level, a common factor. Last class, you were saying that to see him as a human being.
Again, that's a very high level, sir. When I have not able to relate to my colleague in the office, how am I able to see him as a human being? I'm seeing him as a competitor, friction, egoistic clashes, etc. No, your thinking is right, sir. But just to mention the expression of avarana, first is we said the selfishness creates the mental agitations, then your attachments, your mental attachments,
Desire
your desire. Okay, you can put second one as desires and attachments. Thirdly, you can call your egoistic notion. It's all connected, but I'm just trying to spell it out. So egoistic notion of I and my, the worries and anxieties of the mind culminating in your vasanas. So these are all, Harishji, what are all these?
The unnecessary appendages.
They are the unnecessary appendages arising out of
Ignorance.
So when you say arising out of ignorance, so the ignorance quotient decides the
level of conflict with the world.
The level of your friction with the world, the level of your selfishness, the level of your ego, the degree of your vasanas, desires, etc. So when you gather wisdom, what would happen, Harishji? I'm still with you, sir. So when you gather wisdom, wisdom is that we are all in the zone of Arunaha. Please, sunrise is too far away for us. All our spiritual journey is in the phase of Arunaha. So at 5:30 it is bright enough. At 5:45 is much brighter. At 6 o'clock is very bright. You don't see the sun yet. At 6:15 you see the actual rays of the sun. That is realization. So what should this wisdom do, sir?
So the first thing that this wisdom does is it makes the ignorance less prominent. It suppresses it, or And therefore, the first, not suppressive, okay, wrong word. Therefore, you, instead of
It
agitation,
dispels
you
it,
are calm.
dispels
You
it.
are calm. It results in calm. So, if I may say that something which you had also referred to earlier, like in that example of using the jhadu in the go down.
Go down.
Go down. So that's the example of the right contact versus the incorrect contact. So the right contact, when the incorrect contact, it creates agitation, it creates the dust. When you same thing, if you do it the right way, the right contact, and that you have explained as the higher cause, whatever, the focus, the intent, then there is no agitation, there is calm, and therefore there is productivity. Because energy is not dissipated in the agitation.
So you have used many new terms which I have not used, but never mind. But the spirit is correct. The message is right. So as the wisdom rises, these evident expressions of avidya, of avarana, start subsiding. There is lesser agitation, there's lesser conflict with the world, you're more contented, you're more harmonious within and without. You know? The selfishness drops, your actions become elevated to a higher cause, your vasanas also get burnt away. And these are actual ways you can evaluate yourself. You can look within and find out to what extent has there been a dip in these expressions or manifestations of avidya or avarana. So Padmanima, what are the three things? The three things is
ignorance,
ignorance,
and Aruna is wisdom.
Aruna is wisdom.
Last is realization.
The last is realization, which is the sunrise, isn't it? And how do you acquire wisdom?
By churning that thing, by working towards it.
So don't go to the shop tomorrow and buy a piece of rope and piece of wood and start churning.
That is an example.
So how do I gather wisdom? Now you said churning. So therefore I'm clarifying, don't do that. But what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Well,
practice, constant practice.
What are you supposed to do?
Burn away your ignorance by manana, contemplation.
By manana, by reflection. Reflection is the process of churning, and churning is negation and assertion. So when you bring this knowledge, examine your life with the backdrop of this knowledge. If your life is the paper, if your life is the paper and the light is the wisdom, examine your life in the backdrop of the light. Your life is a piece of paper. Examine it in the backdrop of the light, then you know what is hidden in it. That is what contemplation is. Now, chumma by-hearting and muttering and chanting meaningless verses. This is useless. It is not what reflection. Reflection actually is, I take my life and examine it. What is the watermark? Has it got an elephant watermark? Has it got a horse watermark? Or has it got a camel watermark? What is it? Examine it. Every paper has a watermark. It's hidden. Your life also has hidden imperfections. It has got something in it. You got to examine, and you only get that when you place it against the light of wisdom. That is what you do early morning. Look at your life and start going through the process of negation, assertion. As we said, give it a sense of relative reality. Something now is consuming you as absolute reality. Try to give it a relative reality to it. If COVID is absolute reality for you, give it a relative reality. Everybody has to die one day. one may die because of this reason, that reason. As we all understand, Padmanima, our prarabdha vasanas, when they end, we die. No, relative reality. What is the big deal? Big
Other
fuss.
people's mind?
Huh?
How do you read other people's mind?
தெரியல அந்த அது ஒரு talent இருக்கு எனக்கு. No, why do you say that, ma?
I know. How
So,
you get to know?
There are many birds that come and tell me a few things. Now, all what we got to understand is that, if you look at that verse from this philosophical perspective, it's so wholesome, so beautiful, so practical. The takeaway is that, so Arunaha, so you will have enough wisdom way before you attain realization, which means the growth is not in black and white, but in shades of gray. It's not ignorance and suddenly one day you become enlightened. The growth is in shades of gray. And ultimately there's no more, not a pinch of darkness, not a strain of darkness or blackness. It's all pure milky white, which is the state of realization. Okay. Let's chant the verse for what it's worth so that we get the significance of what we learned. Perhaps it will stick. So just for your benefit, Gayatri Ma will share. We'll just chant once and then we'll conclude with invocation. Arune neva bodhena purvam santamase hrite tata avirbhavedatma swayamevamshumaniva. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.